First thing that comes to mind is that um, we actually have a very fussy eater in our house. And something that I've found that works with her is to involve her in the cooking. So
Yeah,
if she's involved in preparing the food, no matter what it is, she's way more likely to eat it. Actually, she'll eat it and enjoy it and love it than if she's not involved. If she's not involved, then pretty much anything we cook is the worst thing ever until she eats it and clears the plate.
yeah,
Just that initial aversion to what's coming out of the kitchen is erased by getting her involved in chopping or stirring the pan a few times. Um, yeah, so you're asking about food and so which can be a pretty touchy topic, right? Like
yeah.
what food should a family, foods should we give to our young children as they develop,
Yeah, that's
especially
right.
through those very sensitive formative years,
Yeah.
and even later on, like what's cool to be on the shopping list.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in my family of origin, where I grew up, much more sugar, processed sugar was part of what we did. Where, in my wife's family, or particularly in her adult life, she made a lot of different choices around food. And so there has always been a slight edge around, I'm a bit more laissez-faire around, yeah, no, the kids are right, let them have an ice cream or whatever. And she's a lot more strict and holds a tighter kind of rein around that, which is great because it's kind of educated me and helped me understand more about food. But there's always a little tension point around that, I think,
Yep.
for parents.
Yeah, in my home too.
Yeah,
I guess what I bring to our house is a lot of research, a lot of learning
yeah,
through university and other programs on the impacts of different types of food on the body, food systems, where food's coming from.
yep,
Um, and my partner didn't come from that background at all. He came from very mainstream food eating.
yep,
Just I guess what 80% of the population eats.
yep,
Whereas I came from my mom was definitely very much a earthy, you know, no animal products,
yeah,
very hippie style food,
yeah,
moosewood cookbook sort of stuff.
yeah, beautiful.
And then dad was similar, that he'd want all his stuff to be open range and
Yeah,
that sort of thing, but he'd be more of a more of a flamboyant cook,
yeah,
cooking with eclectic flavors. But in our house, so I guess I tried to be as um, open as I could with how I felt about food. And
yeah,
particularly for me, that was sugar. So no refined sugars was what I wanted for our kids before they were two, at least two,
yeah,
because of what I'd heard that it did to the developing bone structure
yeah,
of children through the work of Dr. Weston A. Price,
yeah,
where he looked at indigenous cultures and where they had no introduction to refined sugars and flours, they had
mm,
perfect sort of skull structure, which gave them great teeth.
wow,
And then where the same cultures, same group of people that had the refined products in the diet, they just had atrocious teeth.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I tried to share that with my partner, and that was pretty easy to reach agreement. And we've done pretty well. We did very well with that over the first couple of years, just keeping sugar out of the home.
yeah,
And then lately, we're still mostly on the same page,
yeah,
and a lot of that is because we have sensitivities in our family. Like
yeah,
we have, I don't know, like a lot of the population, autoimmune diseases, things like
yeah,
hay fever or eczema, psoriasis,
yeah, yeah,
which I believe are triggered by foods we eat.
yeah,
So that's contentious for sure.
yeah,
So the way I'd like to approach that is by excluding those things that could impact
mm,
that autoimmune reaction, that
mm,
inflammation that occurs, particularly with wheats, glutens, sugars, dairy products as well.
yeah,
Um, but because it's so hard to get them all out and see a response, then there is a counter reaction where
mm,
when we're under pressure, then the easiest thing to cook is some pasta and tomato sauce.
yeah. Absolutely. It's really important stuff. How do we make this happen? You know, when we're new parents, even, you know, parents of older children, what do we need to set up so that we can access the right kind of food? We can, you know, make sure that we're having health and exercise in our lives. And we know from what we've talked about that's going to help us be better parents. What do you do? What strategies have you always done since becoming a parent?
The first one was swallow my pride and take a very incremental approach to any activity I do, because I'm not a young man anymore.
Yeah.
And even when I was, it was probably a good idea to take a, you know, very gradual approach to new exercise, right?
Yeah.
So there has been times when I've just sort of jumped back into running or weights, expecting to be like I was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And quickly found out that that's not the case. You know, hurting shoulders, hurting backs and knees. So yeah, getting into anything really gradually. Like, it's a really long game. It's a long game we're playing. So just taking it super patiently.
Yeah.
From the beginning, so with young kids, I used to take them in the stroller running.
Yeah.
Or I'd take them to the park. And you were joking about this the other day. You said you used to have Fit Dad.
Yeah,
Fit Dad at the park.
Daddy. Yeah.
Exercise Daddy at the park. That was me. It wasn't me at your park, but it was me at my park.
Uh-huh.
I'd take the kids to the park. They'd slide around and do their things.
Yeah.
I'd use the equipment to get my exercise on.
Yeah, fantastic. Why not?
Yeah. Who cares really what people think? I've got half an hour outside in the park with my kids. They're playing. Yeah. I'm going to make myself feel good as well.
Yeah, I think that's great. And for me and my wife, it was turn taking. So we got good at, you know, finding time where I could be the lead parent and she could be the lead parent, and then one or either of us could go off and do our stuff. And I've heard of, you know, some friends of mine who are new parents who have hooked up with another family, and they just take it in turns of child caring whilst the other person is, the other family are off exercising or looking after themselves in some way.
Yeah, we did that when the kids were young as well.
Yeah,
it's nice and social as well. Yeah. We go dad's running and then mum's running.
Yeah, and
just switch. Sometimes the dads would take the kids, so the mums would have, you know, a couple of hours off. I'm a big fan of that switching as well, because then as a dad I get time with the kids by myself, and it's totally different, really special, very important to have that time by myself with my kids.
Yeah.
Something else I find works for me is engaging other dads, other guys in the community to do activities with. So in the past I've ridden bikes down behind the beach trails, you know, once or twice a week with another dad from around the corner. Surf checks exchanged by text messages just to make sure we get in the water a couple of times a week. Hill walking. Lately we've been walking up a hill up in the pocket. Yeah. And it's just like a 40-minute walk straight up the hill. Yeah. Get some time in nature, get time to connect, share ideas on how our life and parenting's going. It's really therapeutic.
Yeah, no, and when you talk about it like that, it brings in that much wider perspective that it's not just about our health and fitness as much as it is also about connection and community and culture. This idea of family culture is so important. So, Horst, look, I really wanted to say thank you so much for coming in. It's been invaluable and some important points for me, for our listeners, and hopefully for all the parents and dads out there around health and fitness. Mate, I'd love to have you back on the show at some stage to talk a bit more about this.
Thanks, Sean. I've had a great time being here.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. Well, I hope everyone's enjoyed the episode for Pregnancy, Birth and Beyond, and surviving with me my first program. Again, very special thanks to Horst Tomsan from Noxanaya Vegan Ice Cream. Tune in next week for more information and inspiration. And as always, if you liked what you've heard, you can listen to more podcasts of us on iTunes or find us on the www site, pbbmedia.org. Please comment on any iTunes on podcasts, because that helps us get the word out.